Hello and welcome to History Factory, where we discuss history and other related facts about Nigeria and Africa. If you're new here, please subscribe to my channel and toggle the notification bell so you don't miss our upcoming videos. Today we'll be discussing one of the old empires in modern day Nigeria, and that is the Oyo Empire. The Yoruba folklore recounts the origin of Yoruba people through the legendary figure of Oduduwa, who established Ile-Ife, often regarded as the cradle of civilization. Descendants of Oduduwa spread across the land, founding their own city-states and upholding the legacy of their monarchical traditions. One of such city-states was Oyo. Reportedly established by Oduduwa's son Oramion, in the 1300s, Ile-Ife held sway as the political, economic and spiritual hub of Yoruba land. However, as trade routes shifted, Oyo surged in prominence, eventually eclipsing the power and wealth of Ile-Ife. Oyo ascended to become the preeminent empire in West Africa, dominating Yoruba land until internal strife and external pressures led to its collapse in the 19th century. The fall of Oyo Empire sent shockwaves throughout Yoruba land, plunging the region into turmoil. Wars ravaged the land for nearly a century until British intervention in 1893 brought stability through the establishment of a protectorate over the Yoruba land. The prosperity and formidability of the Oyo Empire. The height of the empire. The empire spanned diverse terrains including rainforests and savannas. The Oyo Empire thrived economically, capitalizing on trade routes and abundant resources. Regional trade in commodities like okra, yam, palm oil, and gold fueled its prosperity. Advanced iron smelting technology provided the empire with tools and weaponry, while imports via the Niger River enriched its culture and military prowess. However, the Oyo Empire's involvement in transatlantic slave trade cast a doubt over its legacy, as it was notoriously known for its involvement in slave trade. By the 18th century, it played a significant role in supplying slaves to European markets alongside neighboring kingdoms like Dahomey and Benin, earning the region the moniker Slave Coast. Before Oyo was an unstoppable empire, it was a small state with only 3 settlements. Its capital, Old Oyo, also Oyo Ile or Katunga, Kusu, and Igbo, which were all located around Ile-Ife. However, the growth of the Oyo economy soon enabled them to establish powerful cavalry units and trained archers who bolstered the empire's expansion. Thus, Oyo integrated kingdoms such as Owu and Ede in the southwest and in the savannah to the north, the kingdoms of Borgu and Nupe. Although the Nupe seized Old Oyo for a period between 1535 to 1610, during the reign of Onigbi, it was later reclaimed. In its prime, the Oyo Empire had conquered as many as 13 rival kingdoms, all of which paid tribute to the central government. By expanding its territory, Oyo hoped to gain control of the profitable regional trade routes along which salt, gold, and slaves were sold. While its expansion efforts were largely successful, the empire faced major opposition from groups like the Ijesha, the Ekiti, and the Kingdom of Benin. The Oyo adopted cultural ideas from some of its conquests. For example, the ancestor worship of the Nupe. Oyo and Dahomey went to war from 1724 to 1730, and again from 1738 to 1748, with Oyo emerging victorious both times. Consequently, Dahomey accepted the political authority of Oyo and surrendered some of its coastal conquests. This gave Oyo access to the sea via tributary state of Porto-Novo, Ajashe in Yoruba land. The decline of the empire. The Oyo Empire's government comprised the Supreme King Alaafin and a council of 7 elders, Oyo Mesi. which was led by the Bashorun. Thus, the Alaafin's ruling powers were not absolute, as he still had to answer to the Oyo Mercy. Even the Oyo Mercy were subject to checks and balances by its judicial and religious cults called the Ogboni. The Oyo Mercy essentially acted as a parliament representing the voice of the people and protecting their interests. The Bashorun served as the commander-in-chief of Oyo's army and organized several religious festivals, giving him some military and religious sway over the Alaafin. For instance, the Bashorun was in charge of managing the important Orun festival, during which the Alaafin was unable to leave the palace due to ritual restrictions. Around mid-18th century, tensions started brewing in Oyo's government. While some leaders wished to continue growing the economy through trade, others thought it best to channel Oyo's wealth of resources into further military expansion. Bashorun, Ga, and the Oyo Mercy at the time conspired to oust four successive Alaafins by forcing them to commit ritual suicides. These antics continued until Alaafin Abiodun executed Bashorun Ga in 1774. Subsequently, he set up an economic policy that focused on the coastal trade with Europeans. Unfortunately, Abiodun's excessive focus on the empire's economy was to the detriment of its army, which became increasingly weak. Again, the central government no longer had firm control over its vassal states. Internally, the empire remained divided and politically unstable. Abiodun's relative Awole killed him and took to the throne in 1789. 7 years later, Awole was ousted by the revolt led by Afonja of Ilorin, a major military leader. It was this same revolt that led to the separation of Ilorin, which was formerly in the northern part of the empire. By the 19th century, Islam had begun to spread from the Islamic states in the north to Yoruba land. Hoping to win the favor of Yoruba Muslims, Afonja, now the leader of Ilorin, invited a Fulani Islamic scholar called Alimi al-Sali into his cabinet. Alimi then incited a revolt of the Hausa and Fulani slaves who took care of the horses used by the Oyo's cavalry. Hence, Afonja, now backed by both Yoruba Muslims and Alimi's band of slaves, continued his revolt and conquered some other parts of Oyo Empire. However, Afonja fell out with the Fulani allies when he refused to convert to Islam. The Fulani Muslims then decided to take control of Ilorin, eventually defeating and killing Afonja in 1824. Ilorin became a Fulani emirate, an outpost of the Great Sokoto Caliphate. The Fulani also invaded Oyo and sacked its capital in 1835, forcing thousands of people to flee to other territories. Meanwhile, after Ilorin's cessation, some of Oyo's other vassal states, including Dahomey, took advantage of the empire's vulnerable state and fought for their independence. Thereafter, a series of wars ensued throughout Yoruba land. For the Yoruba, the political decline of the empire had their consequences, as more and more of them were enslaved and shipped off to the New World until the slave trade ended there in the 1850s. Prior to that time, most of the slaves Oyo sold were from outside Yoruba land. In 1888, what was left of the once powerful Oyo Empire became a protectorate of the British Kingdom. New Oyo. Today, Oyo refers to both a state in southwest Nigeria and a small city within the state. The city, which is locally known as New Oyo, was founded as the capital of the remains of the former empire and new seats of the Alaafin after the fall of Old Oyo. However, the Alaafin is now more of a cultural and spiritual leader than a political authority. The economy of New Oyo is sustained by agricultural and handicraft. The town is famed for its carved calabash, leatherwork, and mat making. Also noteworthy, New Oyo is home to